Welcome to Sportpen. Today we're taking a deep dive into the epic career of Carl Lewis. You could definitely argue he's the greatest track and field athlete ever.
Oh, easily one of the greatest. The greatest, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to trace those key moments, that incredible drive, and the performances that just rewrote the rule book, really, turned him into an absolute legend.
Absolutely. And Lewis, well, he wasn't just about collecting medals, was he? He was setting a whole new bar for, sustained excellence on the world stage.
Totally. I mean, 9 Olympic golds across 4 different games.
Yeah, that level of dominance is it's almost unheard of.
Right. And then being named Sportsman of the Century by the IOC, that really says something about his impact.
It really does. It cements his place,
It does. And what's also fascinating, I think, is that away from the track, he was often seen as, well, someone who didn't quite fit the mold, right? The expected American sports hero image.
Yeah. Maybe a bit misunderstood. Unwilling to conform, perhaps.
Yeah. So our aim today, really, is to dig into what actually defines greatness and how someone like Carl Lewis can rewrite sports history, even while, dealing with all that public perception stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about more than just, crossing the line first. It's the whole journey, isn't it? The obstacles, the influence.
The lasting legacy.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Carl Lewis, born in 1961, and you could almost say track and field was just in his blood.
Oh, for sure. His parents, William and Evelyn Lewis, they were deeply involved. Actually founded the Willingboro Track Club.
Wow, founded it.
Yeah. So you see that kind of deep family connection to the sport pretty often with elite athletes, don't you?
You do. And his siblings were talented too, right? Including his sister Carol Lewis. She was an Olympian.
That's right. Yeah, Carol was an Olympian in the long jump. So it created this whole, family dynamic centered around athletics.
But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Apparently, Carl wasn't initially seen as the most naturally gifted in the family.
Yeah, that's the story. That his parents even sort of nudged him towards music instead.
Crazy. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? About perceived talent versus just sheer determination.
It absolutely does. And it really highlights that inner motivation.
Yeah.
Despite not being labeled the prodigy early on, he was out there practicing long jump in his backyard.
By himself.
Seems like it. That kind of focus, especially when he apparently had some early struggles in meets. It says a lot about his drive.
And it wasn't just him alone pushing himself. There's that wonderful anecdote about Jesse Owens.
Ah, yes. Giving encouragement to a young Carl Lewis at a meet in Philadelphia.
Can you imagine getting that kind of validation early on from a legend like Owens who'd faced, similar kinds of pressures?
That must have been incredibly powerful. That sort of mentorship, passing the torch.
Yeah.
It can be so formative.
And it clearly fueled him because by the time he graduated high school, 1979?
Yep, maybe not.
He was the top-ranked high school track athlete in the entire country. That's quite a jump from the kid being pushed towards music.
Quite a leap indeed.
So he's poised for this amazing Olympic debut. Everything's lining up, and then fate throws a curveball. Lewis makes the 1980 U.S. Olympic team, but
the U.S. boycotts the Moscow Games.
Yeah. That announcement from President Carter, March 1980, just pulled the rug out.
Oh, completely. It had such a profound, often devastating impact on those athletes. Years of dedication, all aimed at that one moment, gone. The emotional toll was just immense.
Absolutely. I think we even have swimmer Craig Beardsley's perspective on it somewhere, talking about that crushing disappointment.
Yes, the lost opportunities, not just for Lewis, but for that whole generation of athletes. It's a stark reminder, isn't it, how global politics can just sideswipe individual dreams.
Beardsley talking about those crummy things in life really resonates. For some athletes, 1980 was their only shot.
Exactly. Their only chance at Olympic glory, and it was just taken away.
Yeah.
Shows how fragile those moments can be.
So no Moscow, but they did hold those Olympic boycott games in Philadelphia.
They did, yeah. In 1980, Lewis won a bronze there in the long jump.
Not the same, obviously. But...
No, not the same at all. But it was high-level competition. Maybe a small sign of what was to come for him.
And it's worth remembering, too, despite that massive disappointment, 9 athletes from that boycotted 80 team, including Lewis, eventually made it into the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Hall of Fame.
Right. That really speaks to the incredible talent level on that team, even if they didn't get their chance in Moscow.
Okay, let's jump ahead. 1984, Los Angeles Olympics. The documentary I'm Carl Lewis really captures the buzz, doesn't it? The anticipation around him.
Oh, absolutely electric. There was this real feeling that he wasn't just going for gold. He was aiming to match Jesse Owens. the 4 goals from 36.
That narrative was huge from the get-go. Carl Lewis, the heir apparent.
And his coach, Tom Tellez, was key. Using these very scientific training methods, quite cutting edge for the time. It wasn't just raw talent.
Definitely not. And the goal is so clear. 100-meter, 200-meter long jump, 4x100 relay.
The exact same 4 Owens conquered. I mean, talk about pressure, history, public expectations.
It was vast. And he clearly had the skill, that long jump. It's remarkable. He won the gold on his very first jump.
His first jump. And then he just passed on the rest of his attempts.
Which was so unusual. And like the documentary shows, it actually drew some criticism, right?
It did. Some felt it wasn't quite, I don't know, competitive enough, lacked the right spirit, maybe.
Yeah, like he wasn't fully engaging. But, I mean, look at the result. He did it. Gold in all 4 events.
Achieved that monumental goal, first person since Owens himself to do it.
And let's not forget, during those games, he also set a new world record in the long jump.
Phenomenal leap, 28 feet, 34 inches. That wasn't just winning, it was setting a whole new standard.
New benchmark, yeah. And even before L.A., his talent was getting noticed. He won the Sullivan Award back in '81, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Which is a huge deal, recognizing the top amateur athlete in the U.S., so the trajectory was already there.
He's already on his way, but those Olympics just launched him into a completely different stratosphere.
Absolutely. Global superstar territory.
Now, this brings us to a really interesting part of his story. His relationship with public perception and that whole idea of amateurism in sports back then.
He was pretty open about his ambitions, wanting to capitalize on his success, and that didn't always go down well.
Right. In the 80s, that ideal of the pure amateur athlete was still really strong, especially around the Olympics.
Very strong. So Lewis, wanting to get endorsements, make a living from his talent. Some people saw that as well. Cocky.
Or even ungrateful, somehow.
Yeah. But as the review of the documentary points out, you look at that same ambition today.
And it would probably be seen completely differently, right? Admired, even. The mindset of a champion who knows their value.
Exactly. It's a fascinating shift in how we view athletes and ambition. It really shows how those cultural norms change over time.
What was maybe boastful then is just confident now.
Pretty much driven.
And it wasn't just about the professional side either. His style, maybe his resistance to certain gender stereotypes, that led to some really unfair speculation about his personal life too.
It did. Intrusive stuff. It's a tough reminder of the pressures athletes face that go way beyond just performing.
Yeah, the societal pressures, the prejudices, if you don't fit neatly into the box. The documentary seems to dig into how those narratives sometimes overshadowed his actual achievements.
Which were incredible, of course.
Okay, let's move to 1988. Seoul. And the race they called the race of the century.
Ah, the 100 meters final against Ben Johnson.
The hype for that showdown was just immense, global.
It really captured everyone's imagination. I bet the documentary recreates that atmosphere brilliantly. The stadium, the tension. You just knew it was going to be historic.
And then the gun goes off. Johnson just explodes out.
Unbelievable start. He surged ahead, won it. And the time, 9.79 seconds, a world record.
Sensational. At that moment, it felt like everything had changed in sprinting.
It did. Johnson's run seemed almost superhuman. But then, of course...
Then came the news. The steroid scandal.
Yeah. Changed everything. Completely flipped the narrative.
The fallout was huge. Johnson lost the record, lost the gold medal, stripped immediately.
And then, in this really dramatic twist, Carl Lewis, who finished second in 9.92,
gets credited with the world record for that 9.92 run and declared the 1988 Olympic champion and the 87 world champion too, retroactively.
It's such a unique, kind of convoluted piece of Olympic history, isn't it?
Totally. So Lewis actually held the official world record, briefly, from January 1990.
Until Leroy Burrell broke it in 91.
Yeah.
It just shows how records and wins can be redefined by things happening way off the track.
And amidst all that 100-meter drama, we shouldn't forget, he also won gold in the long jump in Seoul.
Crucial point. It sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, but that reaffirms his incredible consistency, his dominance in that specific event.
Another Olympic gold in the long jump is massive on its own, especially with everything else swirling around.
Yeah, absolutely. Shows his focus and skill in a really technical discipline.
There was also that bit of controversy, wasn't there, about stimulants found in his system at those games?
There was, yes. But the levels were well below the threshold for a ban at the time. Experts basically said it was negligible, not performance enhancing.
Like taking cold medicine, right?
That was the comparison made by medical experts back then, yeah.
Yeah.
The rules and understanding around substances have obviously evolved a lot since '88. Adds another layer to his soul experience, though.
Definitely. Okay, moving into the 90s, Lewis just keeps building this legendary status. Barcelona, 1992.
Yep, another gold in the long jump, plus he anchored the 4x100 relay team to victory.
That relay gold felt significant too, showing he could deliver for the team. And the long jump, just continued excellence.
Remarkable consistency.
Remarkable feels like an understatement, honestly, because then he goes to Atlanta in 96.
And wins the long jump gold again.
His fourth consecutive Olympic gold in the long jump, 4 in a row.
Unprecedented. Just sheer, sustained dominance across, almost 2 decades at the very, very top level.
It's extraordinary, that kind of consistency in one event at the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It really sets him apart in track history.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the Olympics either. He kept winning at world championships, too. Multiple golds in sprints and the long jump throughout his career.
So when you look back at his whole career, it really did challenge those traditional ideas of what an athlete should be, didn't it? On the track, off the track.
He wasn't afraid to push boundaries, to challenge expectations. He definitely carved his own path.
And in doing that, he influenced how athletes approach their careers, their image.
For sure. It connected that idea of, running your own race, focusing on your unique strengths, your potential.
You're not just following the script or comparing yourself constantly. Lewis really seemed to embody that in a way.
That's a great point. His career really highlights that internal drive, focusing on your own excellence, even when maybe the outside world wants you to be something else.
It's interesting, too, to think about how his long stretch of dominance compares to, say, Usain Bolt. Bolt had that incredible blinding peak.
But maybe a slightly shorter reign right at the very top, championship-wise. Lewis's peak lasted longer across multiple games.
So it brings up that classic sports debate, doesn't it? What defines the ultimate duo? Is it the absolute peak or the sustained dominance over many years?
Lewis certainly makes a powerful case for sustained excellence. A very compelling argument.
And beyond the medals, beyond the records, his influence, like that documentary review suggests, it went further than the track.
Oh, definitely. He helped shape how athletes are seen, how they can manage their careers, be more assertive.
His impact is undeniable, breaking down barriers, paving the way for athletes who came after him to embrace their full potential athletically and commercially.
A true game changer.
Thanks for listening to Sportpen.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it? Looking back at the career of a true legend.
Indeed it has. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening. When you consider Carlos's whole journey, those 4 straight long jump golds, which is just mind-boggling, navigating all the controversies, challenging what people expected, how does his unique path maybe redefine what we think of as a truly legendary, influential career in sports? Something to chew on.